Hello. Today I'm going to talk about how you can put a Padlet page in the middle of your Moodle course. I think this can be done in less than a minute, so it won't take very long, but I will go into more detail later on. Here's a Moodle course, and this is what I'm talking about. I'm just having a Padlet page taking up the available width. And this isn't just a photograph, this is the genuine page. Any changes we make here will be made in Padlet. So to get on and do it takes almost no time at all. I'm going to scroll down to the section below and let's put one in week 6, term 1. The first thing I need to do is turn editing on. So I'm going to scroll up to the little gear wheel at the top here, turn editing on. The next thing I'll need, of course, is a Padlet. So I've got one here with my brief timeline of pigs in literature, and they make it very easy for you. There is at the top right here a button called Share. If I click that, it opens a side panel, and one of the items here is Embed in your blog or website. That's what we want. So this gives us a whole block of HTML code which we need to paste into Moodle, and the simplest way to do it is just to press the copy here, and it tells us that's copied to my clipboard. So we'll come back to our Moodle class. I scroll down, there's the one that we looked at, and here's week 6, term 1, where we decided to put one. I'm going to click Edit for that section, and then it's simply a matter of pasting that code into the HTML editor. So here's our standard editor, and if we click this button it allows us to use HTML code. So this tells us there's a paragraph with a break in it and the paragraph ends. We'll get rid of that and simply paste in that code. Now when we go back to the normal view, the Padlet will load. Here it is, pigs in literature. We should be able to save the changes and see what that looks like on the page. So it's loaded now, and I can scroll across. Let's make a change to it here. I can add a new title, Pigs in Space, and if we go up to our original Padlet, we can see that Pigs in Space has been added here, so these are completely linked to one another. What I'd like to do next is show you how you can do this in a way that is visible only to your own students. So this one, pasted here in the section, everyone will see, which may well be what you want, but let's see how you can make it invisible to students who aren't in your group, and then finally we'll look at how you can make it a little more secure and more accessible. So to add a different one here, just for my group, I'm going to add an activity in resource, and I'm going to choose a label. So what we'll do is we'll put our Padlet on a label instead of in the main section. Here, we're just going to use the HTML code, delete that, and paste in what we got from Padlet. Now, the next thing I want to do is restrict access, because I don't want every student to have to scroll past this if it's not relevant to them. I only want my group to see it. So I'm going to add restriction by group. So the student must match the following, and I want to choose my group, which I've just called dummy group. And the next thing I want to do is this little I here tells me that it's displayed grayed out if the student doesn't meet this condition, but I don't want other people to even have to see it and scroll past it, so I click until the I's crossed out. Now it's hidden entirely if the user doesn't belong to the group. A little warning, you'll feel tempted to click add restriction, but that's to add another one, so you don't need to do that now. We can just save and return to the module. Now when we look at week 7 term 1, we will be able to see the page once it's loaded, but any other students won't be able to see it at all. If they're not in dummy group, this will just look like a normal section like the one below. It will just look like this, and there won't be the Padlet there. I feel that I'd like to move that up to the top of the pile just so the other things are below it, and then that's kind of how I want it. Moodle is particularly good on things like accessibility and keeping students safe from data collectors and stuff, and other things we paste in here might not be so good. So let's have a little look at this to see if we can improve it. I'm going to edit the settings again, and we're going to look at the HTML code. You won't have to understand much, but just I think we can make it a little better and a little safer. First of all, I'll make it big so we can see it. HTML. So this div, this little division here, starts there and ends there. We can see there's another one inside it, and there's various containers in here. And then the iframe, an iframe is what allows you to put another website inside yours. And it's got this thing, allow camera, microphone and geolocation, which obviously Padlet want to have some information on that, but I don't want my students' information to go to Padlet, so I'll get rid of that. The height is quite tall. I might make that a little smaller, so we've got the width 100%. Good. The height isn't a percentage, it's given in pixels, so I'm just going to make that a little smaller. Let's make it 400, just so it's not such a large object on the screen. Im is the image, so this is what they're actually seeing. And images nearly always have an alt text, and for people who have problems seeing, or if you're using a screen reader, this is what the screen reader will read, and it just says made with Padlet, and I'm going to get rid of that because that's not very helpful. And I'm going to type in something that a screen read is more descriptive. Timeline of pigs in literature, Padlet, so anyone who can't see it will know exactly what they're missing. That makes the accessibility much better. So with those changes done, I'll come back and save. Now when we see it, it won't be quite as tall as before. We notice if we look at the one above, it was quite long, fills the whole screen at this magnification. This is a little shorter, and if we make it too short, we might find that these disappear off the page, so we'll have to see what works best. If a screen reader hovers over that, it will say timeline of pigs in literature, Padlet, which is more useful. There won't be access to our camera or our geolocation or microphone. If these get too small, there's always the option to open in a new window, and that takes us back to the original Padlet page. You notice the URL is Padlet itself, so we're outside Moodle. That's probably all you want to know. I'm just going to run through one more thing in case you want to put it on a block. I'm going to add a block. When editing is on, this add a block option is there. And if I type H, it instantly highlights HTML. I'll click enter, and it's going to add an HTML block for me. It's made one now. I need to configure it. So configure is kind of like edit settings. I'm going to call this Padlet, this block. I'll go to the HTML, remove that, and paste in our code from Padlet. I will go through here and change those settings, which I won't bother to do now, but put that alt text in and stop the use of videos, etc. And now we see that our page has arrived here. Seeing how tall that is, obviously if I was to go through the HTML, I'd make this smaller. In fact, I'd probably make it much smaller, say 300 or 200 pixels, and then we'd just use the external link. Hope that was useful to you. Very, very simple thing to do, and don't be frightened about editing the HTML. You don't have to do that. I just think it's a little better.